Cast out by their own, these 5 women were rescued by the Lakota and returned as legends. The galaxy had a way of discarding those who did not fit its rules. In the vast expanse of stars, empires rose and fell, laws were written and rewritten, and judgment was swift. For 5 women, each from a different corner of the cosmos, judgment had come with cruelty. Their names, once proud, now whispered with shame. They had been cast out, rejected by the very worlds they had served. The first of them, Ysera of Tokor, had been a scientist on her home planet. She had questioned the use of a weapon designed to destroy entire colonies. She had spoken of mercy. Her council had called her weak, a traitor to progress, and exiled her to the outer frontier. Alone, she had wandered through asteroid belts and empty moons, surviving by wit and knowledge, but always aware that death followed her closely. Next was Leora of Vasara, a warrior who had refused an order to execute prisoners of war. Her commanders had labeled her honor as defiance. For her, punishment was public disgrace and exile from her people's fleet. She drifted among the cold stars, her battle skills her only shield, and her honor her only companion. The third was Selah, a leader of her homeworld's council, known for her wisdom and fairness. She had opposed a law that allowed corporations to enslave the weak. Her people called her a rebel and sentenced her to permanent exile. Selah's mind was sharp, but her heart heavy. For the first time, she tasted the bitterness of isolation. The fourth, Tavira, had been an explorer, charting star systems others feared to enter. She had discovered life forms and cultures that her empire wanted destroyed, claiming they were unworthy of existence. Her insistence on protection made her a criminal in the eyes of her world. She was cast out without ceremony, her ship left adrift near a dead star. And finally, Miera, a healer. Her people were warriors, and her refusal to harm even an enemy soldier made her despised. They believed weakness must be purged. Miera was sent to a barren moon with minimal supplies, expected to die quietly. Yet she survived, tending to her own wounds and learning the rhythms of the moon. By chance or fate, their paths converged in the outer reaches of a sector no one dared patrol. One by one, distress signals had been sent, small and weak, barely noticed. The Galactic Council, which prided itself on order, ignored them. It had little interest in those it had already condemned. But the women did not give up. Every pulse sent into the void carried a message. I am still alive. I am still human, or worthy of life. For months, the signals went unanswered. The women wandered through dangerous regions of space, scavenging derelict ships, surviving asteroid storms, and dodging pirate raiders who knew the sector was unguarded. They learned to work alone, to trust no one, and to rely on their own abilities. Yet even in the harshest conditions, hope was a fragile ember that refused to die. One night, when the stars seemed too distant and the void too empty, a reply came. It was not in the formal codes of the Council or in the languages of the empires. It was simple, almost primitive, but clear. We see you. We will help. At first, the women hesitated. Ysera's hand hovered over the console. She had been tricked before. Leora tensed, ready for combat. Selah analyzed every possible outcome. Tavira's curiosity babbled with caution. Miera, ever the healer, simply hoped. The message repeated itself, steady and persistent, guiding them to a set of coordinates far from any known trade routes. When they arrived, the sight that met them was unlike any fleet they had known. The ship that approached was not sleek, nor adorned with the symbols of the galactic empires. It was large and strong, with carvings and patterns that seemed almost ancient. Its hull was decorated with markings of animals, wolves, eagles, bison, and symbols they did not recognize but somehow felt familiar. From the ramp of the ship, humans appeared. They wore armor that seemed traditional yet functional, and their eyes held a depth of calm strength. The women expected arrogance, perhaps suspicion, maybe even hostility. Instead, the humans offered a simple question: do you wish to live? The simplicity of it stunned them. No questions about who they were, no demands for proof of loyalty, no judgment of past mistakes, just a choice. Do you wish to live? Without hesitation, the 5 women stepped aboard. They were met not by soldiers, but by guides, humans who explained only what was necessary, who respected space and silence, and who watched without interference. The women were led to quarters, modest yet comfortable, where they could rest and recover. Here, on this human vessel, the weight of exile began to lift, if only slightly. Over the next days, they learned that these humans were called the Lakota, descendants of Earth, who had ventured far beyond their home planet. The Lakota believed in honor, courage, and the strength of the individual. They believed in protecting those who could not protect themselves. Unlike the galactic empires, they did not seek control, domination, or wealth. Their purpose was simple: survival, justice, and freedom. Sarah observed the technology with amazement. It was advanced, yet woven with tradition. Computers were powered by systems that mimicked natural processes. Chips moved through the void not by raw force alone, but with careful understanding of energy, gravity, and the flow of space. There was elegance in everything they did, a quiet confidence that impressed her more than any weapon she had ever seen. Leora, meanwhile, trained with Lakota warriors. Their style was different, fluid, and rooted in understanding the opponent rather than brute force. She found herself pushed harder than ever before. For the first time, she realized that being strong was not about dominance, but about balance, patience, and instinct. Selah studied the Lakota leadership, fascinated by how decisions were made. Everyone had a voice. Every opinion weighed, yet there was no hesitation when action was needed. The women began to understand that power could exist without fear, that strength could coexist with compassion. Tavera explored the ship's vast mapping systems, charting stars and planets even humans had not fully catalogued. She felt the thrill of discovery without the shadow of destruction. And Mira, the healer, found herself learning not only new medical techniques but also new ways to read life itself, the rhythm of energy, the balance of health, the interconnectedness of beings across the universe. Despite the calm and safety, the women could not forget why they had been cast out. Memories of betrayal, pain, and loss lingered. Yet for the first time they felt that maybe, just maybe, there was a future where they were more than mistakes, a place where they could be reborn. Then came the first trial. A small scouting ship from the Galactic Council detected the Lakota vessel. They sent a warning: return the exiles or face destruction. The Lakota captain did not panic. He gathered the women and said simply, "You do not hide, you do not fear, you will stand. Learn our ways, and you will see what it means to survive with honor." The women felt a spark ignite within them, a mixture of awe, fear, and excitement. They had been hunted and discarded, yet now they were not only seen but protected. They had been given a chance to learn, to grow, and perhaps to change the balance of power in the galaxy itself. As the stars stretched endlessly around them, Isera, Leora, Saela, Tavira, and Miera realized that their lives were no longer their own. They had been chosen, not by their people, not by the council, but by humans who saw value where others saw nothing. For the first time in years, they felt hope, and with hope came the promise of something greater, a chance to become legends. The Lakota did not promise glory, did not promise revenge, and did not promise a return to their old worlds. They promised something far rarer, the chance to survive, to grow, and to become unbroken. And in the silent void, with stars as witnesses, the 5 women accepted that promise. In the cold expanse of the galaxy where empires cast out the weak, a small human fleet carried the exiles into the unknown. And for the first time, the 5 women dared to dream, not of escape, not of survival, but of greatness. Somewhere deep in the darkness, the galaxy watched, and it would remember. The 5 women awoke to a new reality. The ship's gentle hum was nothing like the cold silence of exile. Instead of fear and loneliness, there was movement, purpose, and life. Humans moved through the corridors with a quiet grace. Every step seemed deliberate, every glance measured. The women realized quickly that these were not ordinary humans. They were Lakota, descendants of a people that had walked the earth centuries before, now masters of the stars. Ysera was the first to rise from her bunk. The gentle sway of the ship reminded her of waves on a long-forgotten ocean. She peeked out of the viewport. Stars streaked past as the Lakota ship moved faster than anything she had seen before. A warm voice called from behind her. "Curiosity is welcome here," said a Lakota guide. A tall man with long braids and eyes like polished amber. "But watch your first step. The ship has rules, but it also has spirit. Learn both, or you will stumble." Ysera nodded, sensing that there was more to these humans than she could understand. She had spent years studying technology and warfare, but nothing in her experience matched the way these humans blended tradition with advanced science. Every corridor was carved with patterns, animals, symbols, even faces, and yet the walls glowed faintly with energy. It was a harmony of old and new, of history and future. Leora had already found herself drawn to the training deck. Here, humans practiced combat, not as a show of strength, but as a lesson in observation and precision. Movements were fluid, almost dance-like, yet deadly accurate. She watched a pair spar, their wooden weapons flashing, their feet never touching the same spot twice. One of the Lakota warriors noticed her watching and smiled. "Come," he said, "we do not teach force alone. You will learn to read your opponent, to move like the wind, to strike when the moment comes. Strength is not muscle. Strength is mind and spirit."
Leora stepped forward hesitantly at first. The first strike barely grazed her shoulder, yet she felt exhilaration instead of pain.
For the first time, combat felt like a language rather than a punishment. Every movement, every block, every swing taught her something new about herself. Sayela, ever the thinker, was led to the council chambers. Here humans gathered to discuss plans and decisions, but the process was unlike any council she had known. There were no speeches, no forced votes, no threats. Everyone spoke, listened, and offered guidance. Opinions were valued, yet when action was needed, a single voice would lead without hesitation. "You will see," said a Lakota leader, an elder woman with silver streaking her hair, "that strength lies in clarity of purpose. Fear and hesitation will cloud judgment. Honor will guide it. Learn this, and you will never be lost." Sayela nodded, realizing that the humans did not just act. They thought deeply, blending intuition with logic. She had spent years navigating political intrigue. But this was different. Here, decisions were made not for power, but for survival and justice. Tavira found herself drawn to the star maps. The Lakota had charted sectors that no one else dared enter. Their navigation combined technology and instinct. Open, the ship seemed alive, sensing gravity currents, cosmic winds, and hidden energy flows. "You will learn to see space as it is," said a Lakota scout, a young man with sharp eyes, "not as lines and dots, but as life, motion, and rhythm. Only then can you move through it without fear." Tavira's heart raced. This was what she had always dreamed of: exploring without destruction, discovering without harming. For the first time, she felt her true purpose aligning with a greater mission. Miera, the healer, was given a small lab in a quiet room. Here she studied not only medicine, but energy. She learned to read vital signs that were invisible to the eye, to sense shifts in the body before illness could take hold. The Lakota taught her to connect with life itself, to see the bond between body, mind, and spirit. "You will heal more than flesh," said the elder healer. "You will heal courage, hope, and purpose. A strong spirit is the greatest medicine." Days turned into weeks. The women learned quickly, driven by the memory of exile and the desire to never be powerless again. They trained with humans, studied technology, and explored the ship's depths. Every lesson challenged them physically, mentally, and spiritually. Isera became adept at human technology, seeing patterns where none existed, solving problems that had stumped even the Lakota engineers. Leora moved with speed and precision, learning to strike, not for aggression, but to defend. Saela absorbed leadership lessons, understanding that honor could guide authority. Tavira mapped new star systems, charting paths that even humans had not imagined. And Miera's healing touched both the body and the soul. Despite their progress, the women were haunted by memories of their exile. They often spoke in quiet corners, sharing stories of betrayal and loss. Isera recalled the council that condemned her. Leora relived the battlefield where she was shamed. Saela thought of the citizens who rejected her wisdom. Tavira remembered the worlds destroyed by orders she refused to follow. Miera felt the pain of the soldiers she could not save. The Lakota watched without judgment. They understood that to heal fully, one had to confront the past. Slowly, the women began to trust not only the humans, but themselves. They realized that they were not weak, nor failures. They were survivors, and survivors could become more than their past. One evening, as the ship drifted near a nebula that glowed with swirling colors, the 5 women gathered on the observation deck. They looked at the stars, silent for a time. Then Isera spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "We were cast out, abandoned by those who should have protected us." Leora placed a hand on her shoulder. "And yet, here we are, alive, stronger than before." Saela nodded. "We are not alone, not anymore," Tavira added. "And we have a chance to see the galaxy differently, to chart our own path." Miera smiled, her eyes reflecting the colors of the nebula, "and to heal ourselves and others." It was then that the Lakota captain joined them. His presence was calm, but it carried authority. "The galaxy has rules," he said, "but not all rules are just. You have been judged by systems that do not understand your value. Here you are free to become what you were meant to be. You are safe, but you are not idle. Learning is only the first step. Strength will follow, and one day you may return to the galaxy, not as victims, but as forces to be reckoned with." The women absorbed his words, feeling the weight of them. Safety was a gift, but freedom was a responsibility. They realized that being cast out had not ended their journey. It had only delayed it. The universe would see them again, and next time, it would not be the same. Weeks passed, and the Lakota ship continued its journey through uncharted sectors. The women trained daily, each excelling in areas that suited their talents. Ysera designed new energy systems for the ship. Leora sparred with multiple warriors at once, growing faster and more precise. Sayala debated strategies and logistics with council members. Tavira charted star systems and discovered anomalies. Miera healed and trained others, her influence growing quietly but powerfully. One day, the ship entered a region where gravity waves twisted violently and cosmic storms raged unpredictably. The women were tested like never before. The Lakota ship moved with skill that defied logic, riding the waves of space as if it were a living creature. The women participated, using everything they had learned. Ysera recalibrated energy shields in the middle of the storm. Leora defended the deck from loose cargo that could crush crew. Sayala directed emergency operations with calm authority. Tavira navigated the turbulent sector, finding paths through chaos. Miera tended to those injured, her hands steady and sure. When the storm passed, the 5 women stood together on the observation deck, drenched in sweat and starlight. They looked at one another and understood something profound. They were no longer the women who had been cast out. They were different, stronger, smarter, united. And they had humans beside them who would not abandon them, who would fight for them if the galaxy came for them. The stars stretched endlessly before them. Somewhere, the galaxy waited, unaware that it had underestimated 5 exiles and the humans who had chosen to protect them. The journey of survival had become the journey of legend. The women were no longer just survivors. They were apprentices of the Lakota, students of strength, honor, and courage. And their story had only just begun. The women had settled into life among the Lakota, but safety was only the beginning. Survival had been their first lesson. Growth, their next. The ship hummed with energy and life as Ysera, Leora, Sayala, Tavira, and Miera learned skills that went far beyond what they had ever imagined. Every day tested their minds, bodies, and spirits in ways that exile never had. Ysera spent long hours in the engineering bays, studying Lakota technology. It was unlike any system she had encountered. Machines responded to thought and intuition as much as input commands. Energy flowed through circuits like rivers, bending to patterns she had to learn to read. She grew fascinated by the way humans had fused tradition with advanced science. Symbols carved into metal were not decorative. They were functional, guiding energy, focusing power, and even providing subtle security systems. One evening, she worked alone on a diagnostic console when she noticed a fluctuation in the ship's energy grid. Normally, it would have been a minor issue, but Ysera recognized it as a potential hazard if left unchecked. She followed her instincts, adjusting the flow and rerouting power through backup channels. The result was quiet, invisible, but significant. The ship's core ran smoother than it had in months. A Lakota engineer approached her and smiled. "You see patterns that we sometimes miss," he said. "You have the mind of a hunter. Observe, predict, and act. That is the way of strength." Meanwhile, Leora continued her training with the warriors. Each day, her movements became more precise, more confident. The sparring was intense. Humans who had trained for decades challenged her, forcing her to adapt constantly. But she was not like the others. She combined alien instincts with her own experience, creating a style uniquely hers. In one session, she faced a Lakota warrior known as Red Hawk, undefeated for years. They circled one another, weapons raised, eyes locked. With a sudden shift of weight, Leora blocked an attack and countered in a way that even Red Hawk had not predicted. The room fell silent. Red Hawk smiled, bowing slightly. You fight with respect, but also with wisdom. That is rare. That is strength. Saela's lessons were subtler, but no less challenging. She studied human governance and strategy, learning to anticipate outcomes without forcing them. She watched council debates, observed training simulations, and analyzed battle scenarios. Slowly, she began to understand the power of influence without coercion, of leading without dominating. One day, Saela was asked to mediate a disagreement between two young warriors over resource allocation for the ship's upcoming mission. Her approach was careful and calm. She listened to both sides, identified the root problem, and proposed a solution that preserved honor while solving the issue efficiently. The elders watched closely, impressed by her reasoning and poise. Tavira spent her days mapping uncharted sectors. She became intimately familiar with the subtle currents of space, reading gravitational anomalies, solar winds, and magnetic fields like a poet reads lines of verse. One day, while charting a remote system, she detected something unexpected. An abandoned alien outpost, its energy signals faint but intact. Her heart raced. This was not just exploration, it was discovery. She mapped it carefully, noting hazards, defenses, and potential resources. Miera, meanwhile, deepened her knowledge of healing. She studied human medicine, alien biology, and even energy manipulation. She learned to sense pain before it appeared, to calm fear with presence alone, and to restore life with skill and precision. One day, during a training accident, a young warrior fell and injured his leg. Miera moved quickly, her hands glowing faintly with energy, stabilizing the bone and restoring circulation. The warrior sat up stunned. "How?" he whispered. Miera smiled. "Care, focus, and understanding. Healing is more than knowledge. It is connection." The women also learned the importance of unity. Despite coming from different species and cultures, they formed bonds that transcended their past pain. They trained together, sparred together, and shared stories of exile and survival. At night, they would gather in the observation deck, looking at stars and reflecting on their growth. "We have all been broken," Isera said one evening, her voice soft but steady. "But here we are being remade."
Yes, Leora agreed, flexing her fingers from the day's training. Forged, not broken.
"That is what we are." Saela nodded. "The galaxy thought it could discard us, but we are learning that strength is not given. It is earned. And we will earn it together." Even Tavira, who usually spoke little, added, "We are no longer exiles. We are something new, something stronger, something that the galaxy has never seen." Miera placed her hand on Tavira's shoulder. "And we have humans who will walk with us, who will fight with us. That makes all the difference." As the weeks passed, the Lakota decided it was time to test the women in a real mission. A distress signal had been detected from a nearby asteroid colony. The system was not under council control, but it was dangerous and unstable. The 5 women, now trained in their respective disciplines, were to accompany a Lakota team to investigate. The journey to the colony was tense. The asteroid belt was littered with debris and unstable gravitational fields. Yet the women performed flawlessly. Ysera monitored energy flows and navigational hazards, adjusting systems in real time. Leora led defensive formations, ensuring the team was ready for sudden attacks. Saela coordinated the mission, directing resources and personnel efficiently. Tavira mapped safe corridors through the belt, guiding the team with precision. Miera remained alert for injuries, ready to heal both physical and emotional wounds. When they arrived at the colony, the women were confronted with the aftermath of neglect and violence. The colony's inhabitants had been left without supplies, and tensions ran high. Predatory raiders had already begun to take advantage of the situation. The Lakota and the women moved swiftly, offering aid and protection. Isera repaired critical energy systems to restore power. Leora coordinated defensive strategies, teaching local workers how to protect themselves. Saela negotiated with hostile factions, finding peaceful solutions where possible. Tavira mapped escape routes and supply lines. Miera healed the sick and wounded, her presence instilling calm and hope. The mission was a success, but not without challenges. Raiders attacked, forcing the women and the Lakota to defend the colony. They fought not with cruelty, but with strategy and determination. Isera activated energy fields that trapped the attackers. Leora struck with precision, disabling weapons without unnecessary harm. Saela directed civilians to safety while maintaining order. Tavira guided reinforcements from nearby outposts. Mira worked tirelessly, tending to the injured and inspiring courage. When the battle ended, the colony was safe, and the raiders were driven off. The 5 women stood together, realizing the magnitude of their transformation. They had gone from exiles to protectors, from victims to leaders. The Lakota captain approached them, his gaze steady and approving. "You have done well," he said. "You have faced chaos, danger, and uncertainty, and you have not faltered. This is only the beginning. The galaxy will challenge you again, but now you are ready. You are not only survivors, you are warriors. You are leaders.
You are becoming legends."
The women exchanged glances, pride and determination in their eyes. Each of them understood that the journey ahead would not be easy. The galaxy was vast, full of danger and deceit, but they no longer feared it. They had learned the ways of the Lakota, strength tempered by wisdom, courage guided by honor, and power balanced by compassion. As the ship moved away from the asteroid colony, the women gathered on the observation deck. Stars stretched endlessly before them, a reminder of the infinite challenges and opportunities ahead.
"We have come far," Isera said quietly, "but there is still so much to do." Leora nodded, her gaze fierce.
"We will face it together," Saela added, "and we will not be broken again." Tavira smiled faintly. "The galaxy will see what we have become." Miera placed her hand on the railing, feeling the energy of the stars. "And we will heal what needs to be healed, ourselves and the worlds that others have abandoned." For the first time, the 5 women felt a true sense of purpose. They had been cast out, rejected, and abandoned. Yet now, under the guidance of the Lakota, they had found strength, skill, and unity. They had been forged in the fires of exile and tempered in the crucible of human wisdom. And as the stars stretched endlessly before them, they knew that the galaxy would never forget the names of the 5 women who had been cast out, and the humans who had chosen to protect them. They were no longer just survivors. They were warriors. They were leaders. They were becoming legends. The galaxy had noticed. It could no longer ignore the presence of humans and 5 women who had once been discarded. Reports of a hidden Lakota fleet and exiled warriors traveling among uncharted systems reached the ears of the Galactic Council. They called it a threat, an anomaly that could not be tolerated. Their words were clear: the women must be returned or eliminated. Isera, Leora, Saela, Tavira, and Miera were on the observation deck when the first council vessel was detected. Unlike the isolated missions they had faced before, this was an armada, a fleet built for war. Its ships were sleek, black, and cold, moving with precision and menace. The Lakota captain appeared beside them, calm but firm. The galaxy believes it can control everything, but there are forces it cannot predict. This is your test. Do not falter. Leora clenched her fists. They will regret underestimating us. Saela studied the fleet, mapping possible outcomes in her mind. We cannot win by force alone. Strategy and understanding will be our advantage. Ysera adjusted the ship's systems, running calculations in her head. If we can manipulate the gravity currents here, we can disrupt their formations before they reach us. Tavira charted the star field, noting asteroid belts, energy fields, and magnetic anomalies. We have the terrain advantage. If we move carefully, we can control the battlefield. Miera placed her hands on the rail, feeling the tension of the humans around her. And we will keep our allies alive. That is just as important as victory. The Council fleet opened communication, their voices cold and commanding. They are property of their home worlds. Resistance will be met with annihilation. The Lakota captain responded simply, "They are free. You will not take them." Then the battle began. The Lakota fleet moved with precision, using their understanding of the environment to their advantage. Asteroids became shields, gravitational currents became traps, and energy fields warped the sensors of the enemy. Council ships fired blindly, while the humans moved like shadows, predicting attacks and countering with ingenuity. Ysera worked in the engineering bay, rerouting power to shields and weapon systems. She calculated angles, timing, and energy distribution faster than any computer could. The ship pulsed with power, deflecting missiles and intercepting energy blasts. Liara led boarding defenses, repelling attempts to breach their vessels. She moved with unmatched speed and skill, striking hard and precise. Even veteran council soldiers found themselves disarmed and subdued by a woman they had once considered a nobody. Saela coordinated teams across multiple ships, directing movements, setting traps, and anticipating enemy maneuvers. Her mind worked like a chess master, seeing moves before they were made. Lakota commanders trusted her instincts, following her guidance without question. Tavira guided ships through deadly asteroid fields and energy storms. She found paths where none seemed to exist, leading Lakota vessels in unexpected directions, splitting enemy formations and creating openings for counterattacks. Miera moved among the wounded and shaken, her presence steadying them. She healed injuries swiftly, calmed panicked crew members, and inspired courage with every word. Even when council boarding parties tried to breach human ships, Miera's calm ensured that fear did not spread. Despite the humans' skill, the council forces were relentless. More ships appeared from the edges of the starfield, sending waves of attacks designed to overwhelm. Yet the women in the Lakota moved with unity, adapting and responding as one. At one point, a council vessel broke through the outer defenses and aimed directly for the Lakota ship, carrying the 5 women. Leora and Ysera acted instantly. Leora intercepted intruders on the deck, disabling weapons and forcing retreat. Ysera recalibrated the energy shield, channeling power to deflect the massive energy blast. The ship trembled but held strong. Saela identified the weakness in the council formation, a gap created by their overconfidence. "Now!" she shouted. Tavira led a squadron through the opening, striking the enemy from behind. Their attacks were precise, targeting engines and control systems rather than crew, ensuring maximum disruption with minimal destruction. Miera worked tirelessly, moving from injured soldier to soldier, human and alien alike. Her hands glowed faintly as she stabilized wounds, her energy flowing into the body to accelerate healing. Crew morale soared as they realized the humans and exiles would not let them fall. Hours passed, but the battle raged on. Council commanders realized their tactics were failing. Every calculated strike was met with greater ingenuity. Every attempt to intimidate was met with resolve. And all the while the 5 women fought not as pawns, but as leaders and warriors in their own right. Finally, the tide turned. The council fleet, battered and disorganized, began retreating. Lakota ships pursued strategically, cutting off stragglers and ensuring the enemy would remember the cost of underestimating them. When the last council ship withdrew, the 5 women stood together on the observation deck once more. The stars were silent witnesses to their triumph. Exhausted, bruised, and exhilarated, they looked at one another and realized the truth. They were no longer victims. They were a force to be reckoned with. The Lakota captain joined them, placing a hand on each of their shoulders. Today, you did not just survive. You led, you fought, and you protected. The galaxy will remember this. You are no longer exiles. You are warriors, and your deeds will become legend. Ysera, her eyes still glowing with the thrill of strategy, nodded. We faced them, and we prevailed, but the galaxy will not stop. There will be others who think they can control us. Leora clenched her fists, a smile of determination on her face. Let them come. We will be ready. And we will fight, not for vengeance, but for those who cannot fight for themselves. Ciela looked out at the remnants of the council fleet retreating into the stars. We have learned that strength is not just power, it is courage, unity, and wisdom. Today we proved it. Tavira added quietly, and we have only begun. The galaxy is vast, but now we know we can face it together. Miera placed her hand on the railing, feeling the energy of life and resilience around her. And we will protect life wherever it is threatened. That is our strength. The women knew the battle had changed them forever. They had faced the might of the galaxy's most powerful military, yet stood unbroken. The exiles they had once been were gone, replaced by warriors and leaders forged in the fire of conflict and the wisdom of humans who believed in them. That night, as the Lakota ships drifted through the calm expanse of space, the 5 women gathered once more on the observation deck. Their faces reflected starlight, determination, and the quiet pride of survival and victory. We are ready for whatever comes next, Ysera said, her voice firm.
Yes, Leora agreed.
The galaxy will not forget our names or the humans who stood with us. Ciela nodded. We are no longer defined by our exile. We are defined by what we have become. Tavira added softly, legends are not born, they are made. And we are being made right now.
Miera smiled, her eyes reflecting the distant stars.
The galaxy may try to erase us, but it will fail. We will survive, and we will inspire. That is our gift and our duty. And so, the 5 women, once discarded by the galaxy, stood with humans at their side. They had fought, they had endured, and they had proven that strength, honor, and unity could overcome even the greatest of enemies. The galaxy had learned a lesson that could not be forgotten. When humans choose to stand with you, even the mightiest forces will falter. The stars stretched endlessly before them, silent witnesses to the birth of legends. The 5 women had been cast out, but now, under the guidance of the Lakota, they were unstoppable, and the galaxy would soon see that legends were not just stories, they were reality.